Hello, everybody, and welcome to another rousing, exciting edition of Self-Publishing Insiders. I'm Jim Azevedo, and I lead corporate communications and marketing here at Draft Digital. Today's a little bit more exciting than usual because I'm looking forward to welcoming our guest, Ocyrus of Ocyrus Inc. Publishing. Ocyrus is active duty military, so he is active duty in the Air Force, and we were kind of logged on here a little bit earlier, about 10 minutes ago, and he was rushing to get back. He'd been up since 4 o'clock in the morning. He was in his full Air Force fatigues, and he was like, "I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there." And I told him, "Hey, man, just sign off for a bit. Get to your desk. It's okay. We're fine." So we'll be welcoming him back when he gets to his desk, I'm sure. So I'm kind of winging it here for a little bit. So bear with me. Today we're going to move away from a little bit of the negativity that's kind of going on, in social media, in the news. Let's as a community, let's move away from the news cycle a little bit to support each other, to talk about community and how we all move forward. You know, One of the things that really struck me about Osiris was, or is, and I should mention that the reason or the way I came to know Osiris was from our good friend Dale Roberts of Self Publishing with Dale. And if you know anything about Dale Roberts, if Dale Roberts says, "Hey, I've got somebody that you've got to meet," then you take him up on it immediately. And when it comes to Osiris, it didn't disappoint, because with Osiris, it's sort of all about positivity, using your God-given gifts of talent and time to help propel you forward, to help you move past your inhibitions, your fear of failure, and that sort of thing, to bring your writing and your publishing to the next level. And that's what I'm looking forward to talking with him about when he does join. But in the meantime, with all of you here, I see some familiar names in the comments, and I see some new names in the comments. So for our familiar faces, thank you guys for joining us week in and week out. And for the new people out there, welcome. We're so happy that you're here joining us. Let's kick off the conversation. Let's talk about indie community. Let's talk about some of the things that may paralyze us when we're trying to get that next book written and published. Why is it so daunting to click that that publish button? And I'll just tell you, I am among the most guilty out of all of us. I've been working on the same book for years, and once I started at Smashwords and then have since moved on to Drafted Digital, I'm out there at conferences and I'm out there giving workshops about how to do things right, about author best practices and so on. And I am still terrified of publishing, you guys, because after all of this best practices knowledge that I've shared from some of the authors out there, some of the best-selling authors out there, um, I want to make sure that I do it right. And and I feel like once I click that publish button, that all you guys are going to look at it and say, "Oh my God, Jim, you could do better than that." So I'm kind of fooling myself. So we're going to talk about all that stuff and how to move past that fear and to do it right and to use those gifts of talent and time. And I can see that Osiris is backstage. I can see you back there, man. I'm gonna bring you up on stage. Here we go. Osiris, you are there. Um,
How you doing, sir? Sorry, I was trying to get the camera off in
No, no,
wide
no.
angle.
You look great. Hey, thank you for your service. I was telling our viewers out there that Osiris is active duty, and he was just, he was just in his vehicle on his way trying to get to his desk. Um, it's all good. We've got a great community here. So
Yeah.
welcome. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for. If it looks like I'm
Oh,
shining, it's because it was a little steamy in here, and like,
no
oh, I
worries.
wasn't thinking on it. And I'm over here like trying to hurry up. The whole military lingo is hurry up and wait. So I am grateful for you having me, and also a shout out to Dale L. Roberts for hooking us up and making this all possible. So thank you so much for your patience again, Jim.
Oh, no worries, no worries. And as a matter of fact, I was just telling the audience that Dale Roberts connected us, and whenever Dale says, hey, I've got somebody that you got to meet. You got to take him up on his offer
Yes,
like
sir.
immediately. So hey, man, like, again, welcome to the show, and tell us a little bit about Osiris Inc. Publishing, or is it
Oh,
Osiris Publishing Inc.?
no, no, you had it right. Osiris Ink Publishing. So, okay, so it's
Okay.
so the way I came about that was I decided to
Yeah.
create a publishing house under my name because I had heard so many times at the start of it that if you put an imprint with your name on
Yep.
it, it can be ostracized. People can know that it's self-published. Me, my vision was different. However, I always thought that I looked at people like Tyler Perry or Oprah Winfrey or those who have established their own sort of platform with their name behind it because to
Yeah.
me that's a symbol of you believing yourself and what you represent. And so I created that initially because I had looked into what it takes to become a traditional publisher, to be a traditionally published author, and
Yeah.
I wasn't for the route that was presented to me. And so I decided, I'd done enough research. I spent about a good solid year in research mode and learning what I needed to learn about the business of publishing. And then I decided to just take my shot at it and just publish my own books, and I was able to get my books in different bookstores and do book signings. And then it wasn't until I went to the San Francisco Writers Conference in
Hmm.
2024 where I did the Teen Summit, and my whole philosophy is about helping people, more specifically, helping those who are in the teenage bracket, like
Mm.
13 to 18, or even 18 to 25, in that adult range as well. But I've always been an advocate of wanting to help people. And so once I learned that, her name was Vani Tawari, and she
Okay.
believed in what my product was. And so I decided, you know what, let's take this and run with it. Let's make this an actual publishing house. And so to me, Osiris Inc. Publishing is a publishing house that takes on, ironically, been taking on a lot of teenagers, but really just taking on people who are new into the industry of book publishing to kind of give
Okay.
them their start. That's what it's been so far.
Okay. That's what kind of sets you apart. And it's funny because I've been going to the San Francisco Writing Conference for at least the last 10 years, and this was the first year I I didn't go to the conference. So we missed each other there. We talked about that before.
Yes, sir.
Gosh. So had you self-published a book on your own prior to just saying, "Hey, I'm going to open this publishing house"? And I just want to like really dig into like what led you to saying, "You know what? I don't want to just do this for myself. I want to get other voices out there a chance as well." Because that's a huge step. I mean, publishing a book, your own book is hard enough, but to say, "Well, heck, I'm going to go the next step and open up my own publishing house and do this for
Right.
other people." Like, what
Yes, sir.
made you cross that chasm?
I really saw I suppose I saw bigger visions than what it was set just for me, because I
Of
always
course.
felt that I want to help people that I feel like really truly like need the help. And of course, there's other platforms and places that people can go to receive that
Yep.
help. But for me, just in knowing who I am as a person, I was mental health in the military for close to 10 years. And so like my whole philosophy is wanting to be able to help people be better versions of themselves. But to answer your question about
That's
what.
what you did in the military. Like you provided like mental health help to the other soldiers. And
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was a mental
okay.
health paraprofessional, and I was a substance abuse counselor for close to 10
Okay.
years. I actually recently
Wow.
cross-trained out of mental health, and now I work in the finance part of the Air
Okay.
Force. But it was very much a rewarding aspect for
So
me.
interesting. Okay.
Yes.
That shines a whole other light on you from like, really looking through your blogs and your videos on your channel and all of that stuff.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But at the San Francisco Writers Conference, I went into that initially because the director, Lisa Provost, she had heard that I was a publisher, and I had just really
Mhm.
like advertised that I was doing it, so I was a little afraid back then, and so I actually didn't go into the conference in 2024 as a publisher. I just went in as an author. But it was
Okay.
the teenager who I met, Vani Tawari, and her father, Mr. Pioche, who actually decided to give me a chance on, hey, it says here on your business card that you're a publisher. So that is exactly how they approached it. And so they gave me the opportunity to do it. And because we were able, Vonnie, to launch Vonnie's poetry book a few weeks ago on Amazon, because we wanted to give Amazon a shot for her specifically.
Yep.
And she was able to get to number one top rated new release and bestseller for her poetry book. And so that opened the door a lot for me to believe that I can actually do this and really help out other
Okay.
people.
I see. Yeah, and hats off to the San Francisco Writers Conference because they've got probably the biggest track out of any conference that I know that focuses on poetry. They do a fantastic job there.
Yes, sir. I agree.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to ask you when it comes to like, having a publishing house, from the publishing as a publisher, to you, what makes an ideal author partner for you? Like, what are you looking when an author approaches your publishing house? What are you looking for in that author as a partner?
Yes, specifically, I'm just looking for someone who believes in their own product and their own work. They're not looking to come to me and say, "Hey, um, here's a manuscript. I kind of believe in it, but can you believe in it for me?" That's not what I'm
Mm,
looking for. I'm looking for somebody who believes in themselves because I can't believe in you if you don't believe in you. I mean, I can, but if you don't truly believe in who you are as a person and what you represent, how can I really push forward for this in an
yeah.
authentic way? And so I look for those who believe in themselves, believe in their product, and who also have a message. It's not as much as, hey, I just want to write a story and say that I'm an author, or I write a story and say that I'm able to tell this story. And look, I have a book out. No, to
Yeah.
me, there needs to be pardon me, excuse me, there needs to be a
Of
message
course.
as to what exactly are you wanting to put out there into the world. My other author, her name, sorry, her name is
That,
Flocka
that's right.
M. She's a Hispanic 15-year-old female in high school, 10th grade, and her book that we're actually going to launch here on March 17th is a story of a young girl who wants to grow up and become a nurse because when she was younger, she experienced loss. She lost her grandfather, and then her mother had a miscarriage with
Mhm.
and she saw how that impacted her mom, but she wasn't able to sit and help her mother. Of course, she was much younger, but she felt
Yeah.
pretty defenseless, and so she felt that who are people who are in that position to be able to help you get better when you're feeling down or when you're like in a medical distress. So
Mhm.
her mind, it was a nurse. And so she felt that if I could become a nurse one day, I can help out other family members going through that. So that was Flocka's her story, her message
Wow.
behind the story. So that's what I like to leech onto. What is the actual message behind the
Mhm.
story? And that's what I look for. It's people who are confident in themselves, who believe in their product, and who have a powerful can be interpreted in many ways, and who has a message
Okay.
overall.
Yeah, and it sounds like that's more important than having a huge platform. We hear about platform all the time
Hmm.
here and at conferences and stuff. And it makes perfect sense because like, I'm out here in the Silicon Valley. So it's like, a new software company going to a VC and saying, hey, can you give us, a few $1 million? We have this idea. It's pretty cool, but maybe you guys can help us take it to that next level. And they're
Yeah,
going to, there's the door.
exactly. That thought. Yeah, Jim. I
Yeah.
like it.
Hey, so I want to know, we're going to kind of shift gears here and talk about mindset a bit, because that's something that really stood out to me when I was reading through your content and how I'm interested in how you counsel your authors and how you counsel yourself, especially when you get to that point where the words just aren't flowing and you're starting to hit that wall and you're trudging through that mud where you just can't lift up your leg again. Like, how do you counsel those authors to persevere and to work through that?
Oh, that's such a great question, and one that I welcome because my philosophy behind that is to get away, get up, escape the area in which you are stuck in. Like, for example, I'm living in Washington State right now, and there's a ton of nature everywhere. I'm close to the
Hmm.
Seattle area, about 40 minutes from it. And I always encourage people to, hey, get out, get some fresh air, get that natural dopamine, and walk around and experience that nature. Breathe in the fresh air. If it's cold outside, maybe go and do something else. But I always encourage authors or creators in general, including myself, if I'm stuck or if I feel like it's just not flowing, it's okay to shut the laptop or close the notepad or put the pen down or whatever it is that you use
Yeah.
to write and completely step away. And sometimes it could be for a few hours, sometimes it could be for a few months, but
Hmm.
it is a necessary tool, I think, that is most impactful. And when I was in mental health, one of the things that I learned that was most effective to prevent burnout was to refresh your mind. Most of the medical providers The psychologists, for example, were always into their documents and seeing different patients back to back to back and not giving themselves a breather. And eventually they became immune and numb to their own feelings because they are taking care of other people in such an extensive periods of time in large quantities. And so what that ends up doing is it burns them out. And they don't take time away to recover, and something as simple as getting up and taking a 5-10 minute break and just stepping outside and breathing in, whether it's hot or it's cold or it's the weather is terrible, getting that fresh air or stepping completely away can act as a reset. And so that's what I encourage creators to do, more specifically in this format, authors, is to step completely away and just reset your mind. That will help immensely. I hope that answers your question.
That's a great answer. What would you say to somebody who says, "Yeah, but I don't want to step outside, but I'll spend 5, 10, 15 minutes just scrolling through Facebook or something like that." Is that the same?
Um, I suppose it depends on what they're looking for. If they're using it as a distraction, then what is actually what's the true distraction? I've always viewed people who kind of scroll through social media endlessly
Yeah.
as a means of escape from whatever their reality is. And so there may be something else there as to why they spend countless hours on social media. It could be boredom, it could be whatever. But if that's a form of relaxation, then I would say I'm all for it. But if it's just a I don't know what else to do. Let me scroll. That part I would highly encourage to maybe find some other activities to take pursuit in, because scrolling mindlessly through social media may not feed the soul as it could if you were to do something like exercising or eating something, whether it's a vegetable or fruit or something nutritious, or stepping outside, even if they don't want the fresh air, maybe just going into your car or going into a quiet area where you hear
Yep.
nothing but silence. Those tools, I believe, are really effective in helping just reset the mind, even temporarily.
Yeah. No, I think that's great advice. I've noticed for me personally, I need to get outside. And I think my I think everybody in my company knows that. I'll put a little mountain biking, icon on my Slack channel saying, "I'm out," like I'm outside. Because for me, if I like start doom scrolling on Facebook or some other social media site, it doesn't act as a deterrent for my brain. Like it's like it just explodes it even more. There's just so much busyness going on in there.
Mhm.
But when I get outside, even if it's just for a quick walk, it helps cleanse that palate, if you
Yes.
will, and it just helps me kind of reset and come back to it
Mhm.
um, fresh. Okay,
Yes,
I
sir.
wanted to talk to you a bit, if you don't mind, about you have a video. It's called Fear and Domination, and I want to ask you about for newer authors in particular, why are we so accustomed to our comfort zone, to being kind of stuck in the status quo? And I talked a little bit in the beginning, I think before you joined, about like um, I guess fear and being paralyzed by fear. How do we get that first step in front of us, Osiris? Like, how do we kind of break out of it? And I think it comes down to fear of failure. But
Mhm.
what is your experience on that? Is given your background?
Yes, sir. I think that there's so many layers to it, but I think the immediate one is just fear of being judged. Like for example, it depends on the culture and where the individual is, but I believe it really comes down to something is making it feel like I'm not good enough, and so maybe immediately stopping the comparisons, which is easier said than done. What's helped me kind of break out of that fear is just saying, you know what, I'm just going to give it a shot and do it. And it can take many many years for people to even get to the point to say, I'm just going to take that first step. I'm
Yeah.
scared. And for those who are scared, I just encourage to maybe go to YouTube. I use YouTube as a resource to maybe find something inspirational, something that I connect with,
Hmm.
for people that can say something that hits me right here in the soul, that gets me to say, okay, I'm doing it. I'm just taking the first step and let's see what happens. And I believe if there are people who don't necessarily have the strongest support system, or maybe even their own family who doesn't necessarily show that same support that they are desiring. I would say use YouTube. We were talking about social media
Hmm.
a little bit ago. Use
Yeah.
YouTube as a resource. Research some things of people who are doing stuff that you have an idea of what you want to do, and then that inspiration will naturally just it'll come out. And once it's out, then that's when you take the shot. Otherwise, I think most people are left in the dark, or are hoping for the light to shine when they don't necessarily have support or they don't have guidance. I also had a strong support. My wife, Melissa Castillo, has been so supportive of me, and
Mm.
it helps to have it does help to have someone who can believe in you. If you don't have anyone else and you need to believe in yourself and you don't know how to, that's when I would also suggest seek out people who are doing things that you're doing, whether you go to them in public or you look at it over the internet. Because I looked at people like Dwayne Johnson and David Goggins and Eric Thomas and Tyler Perry and Serena
David
Williams and
Goggins.
Kobe Bryant. Yeah. And I was listening to what they were saying, and they just things that they were saying, they were just hitting it bang, 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 just down the middle. And the one thing that stuck out to me that was similar in all their mindsets was just a fearless mentality. They're scared in many aspects. There's a fear there, but you don't see it. Maybe the fear of stopping, because if I stop, I don't know what else to do. So for those who are afraid, I just encourage to just find someone who has a common interest as you, and seek their guidance or watch their content and get inspired, and then take the first step. I know it's a
Yeah.
long drawn out answer, but yeah, I think it
No,
was
but
one thing.
perfect answer. And people like David Goggins, I've learned from folks like him that growth happens on the other side of fear. Like you have to step into the fear. You have to step into the challenges if if you want to grow. And I'm so happy that you're talking about people and the company that you keep. Your growth lies in the company that you keep.
Mhm.
And I'm happy that you mentioned that, because the indie publishing community, we have a community here now, and it's kind of evolved into its own culture. In the beginning, what, 14, 15 years ago, when when this industry became democratized, it was all like, oh my god, we can all kind of publish now, let's just do it. And it's kind
Yeah.
of a free for all. But now it's like evolved into this culture where like everybody respects each other, because we all know it's hard. We all know it's an uphill climb, it's an uphill grind, but there's so many resources out there. There's so many people out there like yourself who are just kind of dying to help that author get to the next level.
Mhm.
So I would like to encourage authors out there, especially for those of you who are newer or aspiring, you haven't published your first book yet. Look for those communities. And that community could just be like doing a quick Google search on writers clubs in my area. Even if there are no writers clubs in your immediate vicinity, there are a lot of different online writers clubs where you can find critique partners and just kind of work through different challenges that you might be happening. And
Mhm.
I swear, when I've met authors at conferences, even online conferences, and for the even authors who are introverts who are scared to death of going to that first
Yes.
conference,
Mhm.
they're like, "Oh my god, I found my best friend, and this is the best thing ever, and I found my tribe," and it's just so encouraging. So we're all here to encourage you guys, because we know you can do it, because we've met a lot of people just like you
Mhm.
who were just starting out, they weren't quite sure about their talent, and they've gotten to that next level. So we know you can do it
Yes, sir. I love that.
too. And speaking of that, let's talk about networking a bit. You
Mhm.
mentioned networking in a few of your videos, and to someone like me, when I hear the word networking, I picture like going into some hall, and I've
Uh-huh.
got this little sticker on my chest here that says, "Hi, I'm Jim," and
Yeah.
all I want to do is go into a corner
Yeah.
and hide. Um, but networking is so much more than that.
Mhm.
I think it takes us all back to high school, where we're just kind of standing in the corner at a dance or some other social activity where we're all supposed to be learning together.
Mhm.
But the book publishing industry, it's a relationship industry. It's a
Mhm.
relationship business, and every time you go to a conference, or even when you're online here, even when you're in the comments, there are people in the audience or at that conference or in that writers club who are publishers, who are editors, who are
Hmm.
agents, who are readers. So I don't know. What I'm trying to say is, put your best foot forward all the time because you never know who you're going to meet.
Hmm.
You're the guest. Sorry, I'm like talking over you.
No, no, you're good. I'm sitting back and I'm absorbing this info as well because I'm in agreement with you about networking, right? Well, the funny thing about networking is, and see, I'm an extrovert, and so I love events like that. But I have never met so many introverts in my life than I have at conferences
All right.
specific for writers. But I think it's also a good thing because it helps them come out of their shell when they see not me, but like people who are natural extroverts and be able to kind of balance and bounce off of each other's energy. What I love about networking is being able to not only expand your social circle, but just making stronger connections with people.
Yeah.
To me, I view networking as a means to help others and help other people. Hey, like for example, Dale with yourself and me. Like I've known Dale for like several years, but we didn't
Hmm.
really start talking at least on camera until this year. Um, but because of his circle of people that he knows, he was able to put me in contact with you for us to talk. And to me,
Yeah.
these platforms, podcasts as a whole, to me, a podcast is a platform, a means of a way to get a person's voice out there. People who follow Draft to Digital know it to be a legitimate platform. They know, hey, if Draft to Digital is putting out any sort of work, we know it to be quality. And for me and the followers that I have, they know that, hey, Ocyrus and over at the Authors Lounge, the people who he brings up to his platform are people who are going to help people be elevated. And this is all about elevation. And so to me, when I look at networking, it's about how can we elevate each other? How can we help people be better versions of themselves and just continue to help this be a positive and a happy experience? And I've met so many people in this business, whether it's through book publishing business or in the entertainment business as a whole, if they're a writer, they seem to want to naturally want to support each other. And so that's what I really love about it.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Artists from different realms, music, visual arts, are all about helping each other and rising each other up.
Yes, sir.
I want Let me bring up a quick question here from the audience, if you don't mind. This is from Guillaume Maurice. Hey, Guillaume, glad you joined again. He says, how to actually stand out as an author? And I'm glad he's asking this question
Hmm.
because, when I was exposed to you for the first time, Osiris, you have an introductory video on your YouTube channel, and you talk about the talents that you have, understanding the talents that you have of you. Well, and I'm sorry, not the talents that you have, but your gifts
Yes,
of
sir.
time and talent to help you stand out. Can you talk more about that?
Of course, yes, and how do you? I'm looking at the name too. Guillermo. I'm sorry for messing your name up.
I think it's Guillaume.
Guillaume. Okay. Well, hey, thank you for the question. So, I think what helps anybody stand out as an author specific is what additional skill sets do you have? What else can you bring to the table? Naturally, a lot of authors are apprehensive to even be on camera, and so putting yourself on camera is already a step in the direction of standing out. But what can you offer if you're going to put yourself in front of the camera? What do you have that you can actually provide as a source of problem solving, not necessarily as just a source of whether that problem solving is a form of entertainment or education. You need to know exactly what is your message. And so I think that if you know what your talents are, it's not just that I'm an author, but are you specific in one genre? To me, I write in multiple genres, and so that in itself is a standout. I do poetry, I write children's books, I also do middle grade horror and young adult horror,
Hmm.
and I also write graphic novels. And so automatically, that's five different genres with five different marketing strategies for each. And
Hmm.
so on top of that, I'm also like naturally just somebody who likes to put smile on people's faces and likes to just put out positive messages. And so that is almost in the sense of being a motivational speaker. So that's one. And you kind of see where I'm going with this. You have a
Yeah.
multitude of skill sets that can set you apart from others. So I would say just dig really deep and see what else you have to offer because I'm sure you're a great writer, but what else can you offer on top of being a great writer? That's what's going to help you
Oh,
stand out.
okay. And then our own Elisa says, on camera?
Yeah,
Speaking on,
I can speak to that. So like for example, right?
okay.
My platform. It's okay if I mention like my podcast, right?
Of course. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so like the Authors Lounge, right? So I actually launched the Authors Lounge over a year ago, like a year and a half ago, and
Okay.
it was audio only, and
Mm.
it wasn't doing too hot. And I was doing promotions and networking, and you know the whole nine. And I just discontinued it. I had a lot on my plate, and I was kind of experiencing a burnout just through mental health and just the whole
Yeah.
ride. I actually completely discontinued it, and about a month and a half ago, I started getting these ideas. It just came to me naturally. Say, bring the show back, but go on camera. Go on camera and let people see who you are. And I naturally don't have an issue with going on camera, but I was actually really afraid of going on camera in this
Oh,
particular venue.
right here. When they said when Kevin, my former boss, left and
Yes,
was like,
sir.
Jim, can you take over the Self Publishing Insider show? I'm like,
Oh goodness, it's like it's nerve
yeah,
wracking, man. It's
it
nerve
is.
wracking. It's like 'cause I can go and do motivational videos or do things to help people or give them advice, but like actually sitting down and trying to provide some sort of a service, in the
Yeah,
form of my platform, which
yeah.
is to help. So just to kind of put it out there. So the Authors Lounge, when I initially launched it, I didn't necessarily have a direction. It was just, hey, I have an Authors Lounge, a podcast. I'm going to talk book publishing and the whole nine. Now I completely did away with that, and now it's specifically focused on helping provide, bringing on guests who can provide their experience and their knowledge through their journey in the publishing industry to help serve the younger and newer generation of writers. Because I have a
Mm,
demographic that spreads from 12 to 35, but really the primary crowd is 18 to 25. And in that
okay.
crowd of people are just getting started, they're graduating high school or they're finishing college, and they want to get into the career of writing. And so like my platform is meant to help provide a source from experts in the business to help them. And so that's what sets my stuff apart. And that's what's helped me. But once I got on camera, it changed everything because people see my face, they see the smile, and they see the friendly
Yeah.
behavior and the friendly positive mindset and attitude and all the whole nine, and people are more willing to be receptive of it. I'm not saying you have to go on camera, but it does help you stand out.
Okay, that's a good point. And Alyssa's been on camera before. We all
uh,
know Alyssa. Let me bring up another question here, if you don't mind,
yes, sir.
from Tom. Hey, Tom, thanks for joining again. Tom, I'm reading it because this is going to be on the podcast too.
Hey, Tom.
Tom, Tom asks, writing in multiple genres, how do you choose the right one? And is it important that you only focus on one genre? I'm all over the map, Tom says, but my latest passion is crime,
Hmm.
mystery. What
Yes.
would you say
So
to that?
I would say I look at people like Steven Spielberg and J.J. Abrams and James Cameron, screenwriters and storytellers naturally. And I think, do I want to be a writer that's specific to a genre, or do I want to tell stories? And so, for me, it's kind of what comes to mind. I don't label myself as like as he just does poetry, or he's a children's book author. Hey, I write in these
Mhm.
genres. I won't do genres that's like erotica or anything like that. That's not what I would do. I would say if there are writers who want to do children's books and then also write in that genre, you would probably be best to go under a different pen name. um, because the two don't really mix. But for me, I to I don't necessarily like know what is the right one to write. I just know, hey, what's coming to me, what's the strongest idea, but what's the story, what's the message behind the story that I want to
Mhm.
tell, and how do I want to paint this picture, and how do I want to market it? Because that's an entirely different entity when you're talking about writing in different genres and then providing a market within those different genres. The tactics are completely different. Like for example, with Vani, and my
Mhm.
author Vani, with her poetry book and the marketing strategy for her is completely separate than how I'm doing it for Flocka for her book that's launching, because hers is a children's book and in two languages. And so there's different strategies that goes into it. So I guess for me, I'm drawn to a story that I want to tell, and I do my research and see how I want to market it, but it's just kind of what I'm drawn to.
Okay. Yeah, I know that there are a lot of authors who they might be passionate about one genre that they love to read and they love to write. It just comes easy for them. But then they hear from their author friends that, well, this other genre over here, or this other subcategory is where the money is. So then they feel that that they're compelled to have to write to the market versus really, really focusing on what they're passionate about. But I agree with your answer. I agree, like, just, write what you're passionate about. If you're passionate about multiple genres, then maybe choose a pen name to not confuse the audience.
For sure. But I want to speak on that too, like Jim, just kind of bring out a point as well about the
Okay.
that you had brought up about the like the being the passion, writing for some people do it for a cash grab, hey, what's hot, what's trending right now. For me, I
Yeah.
know for a fact I'm not a fantasy person. I love what fantasy represents in
Hmm.
the book publishing world, and even when it translates into movies. I even enjoy watching the movies, but I know I'm not a fantasy writer, and I see what romantasy is doing right now in the business, and it's like, should I
Yeah.
follow the trend? I'm not going to do that because that's not who I am. But I might find a happy medium between, let's say, if I'm going to do a children's book and I'm like, okay, I want to write on this topic, but there's that Los Angeles fire that happened recently. Maybe I want to tie in both as a powerful message to act as a form of relief. And so it's kind of like just meeting the two in the middle and then providing something in that aspect. And so that might also be helpful, kind of like blending in your love for writing and your storytelling with what you think should align in the middle. And then boom, that's what can also be presented.
That's good advice. Tom had a quick follow-up question. He wanted to know, do you have a monthly newsletter?
I do. Yes, I actually do them once to twice a week. No, sorry, not once to twice a week. Once to twice a month. Yes.
Okay.
So yep. I don't know how I'm providing information. How do I provide that information on this platform, sir? Do
Do
I
you
just?
have do you have is that can they get to that web to your newsletter through your website?
Yes, sir. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
I can put it in
Let
the
me bring
chat
up
if
your
you.
yeah, let me throw it in the comments here.
Okay.
Where is it? Is that the right one?
Oh wait, let me pull it away. Oh, Ocyrus Ink Publishers. Oh yes, sir. That's it. Yep. And you go there,
Okay,
and then a pop up will happen. You'll see the bunny, my mascot, John. He'll pop up, and you just put your email in, and you subscribe to it that way. And then I'll add you to my newsletter, and then you'll get it once or twice a month.
perfect. All right. I'll leave it up there for a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. Did I miss any questions here? Okay, cool. All right. Hey, I wanted to ask you, Osiris. We talk a lot about on this show and in conferences about what it takes to become a successful author, but success can mean different things to different people. How do you define success for your newer authors, and how do you define success for yourself?
Oh, that's a solid question. For the author, I ask, okay, well, where are you trying to go? Are you trying to be a New York Times bestselling author? That's many authors' dreams. Are you trying to win like a Pulitzer Prize, or are you trying to win a high level award, or are you trying to be better than what you were a day ago? Like
Hmm,
what's the metric here, and how are we going to measure that?
what's the metric?
So
I like that. Okay.
right. So, like, are we looking at sales on just Amazon, or are we looking at distribution across the board? Are we looking like Barnes and Noble? Are we looking at Walmart? Are we looking at libraries? What's the goal here? Where do you want your book to be? And so, for me, I always ask the question like, "Hey, what's the vision for where you want your book to be?" Because it needs to be specific. You can't just go to a shooting range with no targets and just shoot blindly. You need to have a target. If you have a target, then you can strategize to achieve what you are trying to achieve. And so I always ask, what are the goals that you have? For me, my goals for the authors that I have are simply to put out some great work, and let's try to get you at least in the top 10 best-selling and Amazon as a start. I don't necessarily understand the algorithms in the business, not business, how the distribution sales work with Barnes and Noble and their
I don't think
conglomerate.
anybody understands the algorithms. The retailers, they're pretty
Right.
dynamic and changing all the time.
Yes, sir. But for myself, my
Mhm,
goals generally are, um, it depends on the genre. But let's say, for example,
okay.
with poetry, because poetry right now is not a market where people are buying the books, but they're not buying it in the same capacity as you would see like a thriller or a romance novel or a fantasy novel. It's
Okay.
not it right now. There are people. So my whole philosophy is we put out a book. Let me promote it. Let me attend open mics, and let me just get it to as many hands as people want to buy. Because I understand that trying to tackle selling books as a means to make a living is not necessarily a reality. Even for those who have made it a reality, like Stephen King, he has
Hmm.
deals on top of deals on top of movie deals that he doesn't necessarily have to worry about. I do think though, like if you're in the trenches with everything, trying to make a living off of being an author could be significantly difficult. And so my main goal is to just put out solid work that can act as a way to help relieve people from their normal day-to-day stressors. If it's a children's books, take you into that
Hmm.
world and have fun. If it's my poetry book, let my deep material soak in and help you heal. And if it's like my young horror book, I want to scare the life out of you, but let you walk away with something to enjoy.
Yeah. No, very good advice. And I like the idea of like, well, defining your metric first, and then figuring out what your target is, and then figuring out the steps that you need to take in order to get to your target.
Hmm. Yes, sir.
Uh, brings me back to I just had this huge marketing plan that I spent like too long on, and finding those targets and finding those steps and defining those steps and sculpting it more, and that's work in and of itself.
Yeah.
But once you have it down, and then every day it's like, okay, now I just need to hit these little steps, and every little step you hit is a little minor success that leads to that next
Yes, sir.
success, and the next one, and the next one. All right, okay, we're getting close on time. Gosh, I wanted to bring up this question. It was in one of your videos again. You're talking once again. You're talking about gifts, and
Mhm.
you said you kind of said it in passing, but I'm like, wait a second, and I rewound it a bit, and it said you said your gift will make room for you.
Yes.
What do you mean by that? Because to me, I interpreted that as like, if you don't nurture your gift, it's going to manifest.
Mhm.
It's going to push through in one way or another. And sometimes that manifestation might be you start to feel anxiety, or you start to feel like something's missing until
Yeah.
you finally start to pay attention. So, can you talk about that just a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Oh, I love this question. So, like the gift. People don't necessarily know what their gifts are, and it's hard to identify it. I've always
Yeah.
felt that if once you find out what your gift is and what it aligns with what your purpose is in life, and then you can live a more purposeful life, you'll be able to then feel like you're living for something. Not to say that if you don't know what your gifts are, you're not living for anything, because I don't think that's true, but I do think if it's discovered, then you'll feel a completely different sense of purpose. And I believe that the gift, the comment about your gift will make room for you, is what I meant by that is, so people may feel out of place in the world, right? They may feel like I'm just at a job that I don't like, but I don't really feel like I'm moving or going anywhere with it. But once you align yourself with your gift, it's going to make room for you. It's going to make you'll know that you belong in a certain space, and also that gift is what's going to make you.
Hmm.
So people can make money in many ways, but many ways when you align yourself with what your gifts are, that's going to naturally bring in more money down the road. Maybe not out the gate, but down the road. And so it'll make room for you to grow as a person. Your gift will make room for you to be able to feel like you're living a more purposeful life. And I say more purposeful because you can be living a purposeful life right now. But if you identify your gift, you will absolutely feel. And I'm not trying to sell a dream or anything like that. I know it may sound that way, but I'm being genuine when I say that.
No, absolutely.
um, yeah, like once you discover what you're supposed to do in your life, because people are stuck. They're stuck. And I've talked to literally thousands of people through the military, it just in mental health and their families and just through volunteer events. And so many people are just freaking lost. They don't even have
Yeah.
a clue where they are. And once they learn just a little bit of, oh, you know what? I actually love doing that. Shoot for it, go for it. And then naturally that flower will begin to blossom and it'll bloom into something beautiful. And now you have a life that you feel is worth living. That's what I'm referencing. I hope that answers your question.
I love that. No, because sometimes you hear purpose and finding a purpose, and that can be a little triggering. It can be anxiety producing, like, oh, I don't know what my purpose is.
Hmm.
But if you kind of step back a little bit and follow your heart, I feel like you just gave permission to everybody to kind of follow their heart a bit,
Yes, sir.
and to take in what their passion is, even if it's just something in their mind that's a little smaller. That's all right. Like
Yeah.
if you're passionate about it, if you're passionate about serving your readers, that's huge, and that
Yeah.
could serve you for a long time.
Yes, if I can add one little quick thing about that,
Please.
because some people may not even know how do I even find, like, how do I find that?
Okay.
Normally your gift is whatever comes the easiest to you. It requires the least amount of effort, and so and it's normally you can spot it from a maybe not a mile away. You may be like kind of distraught, may not know, like, oh goodness, I don't even know who I am anymore. But just kind of think when you were younger, what were some of the things you were naturally drawn to? And maybe you didn't have like the best childhood. And so in that aspect, you're like, maybe something took you out of it. And if nothing took you out of it, then I would encourage maybe see what you are naturally drawn to. If you're somebody who's on social media, like what in it in social media that you're looking at are you naturally drawn to? Start from there. But or do I forgot the name of it. It was it's like a diagram or something like that. I can't think of it for the life of me, but it's pretty
The
much,
Venn diagram.
yeah, that's it. Yes, sir. Yep. It pretty much is I wish I had a layout for you, but essentially it's pretty much showing you like, hey, like what do you love to do, or what do you, I don't know, something with work.
Sort of like overlapping circles. Like you have one interest here, one interest here, and then the middle is where everything kind of conjoins.
Yes, sir. Yep, that exactly. Yep, just look up the Venn diagram. That that can help. But yeah, that's all I wanted to add. Sorry, I know we're getting short on time.
No, no, that was perfect. We are actually at time. Um, this has been wonderful. I want to bring up a quick comment here from Beth, because Beth, you bring up a good point. This has nothing to do with this conversation specifically, but I want to bring up Beth's comment because we have a lot of new viewers out there. Just really quickly, Beth says, I don't know who decides, what to have for these chats, but you ought to consider a time to talk about, all the in-house help that Drafted Digital has to offer, such as pre-made book covers, sales, and promos with Smashwords, emails, and all
Hmm.
that kinds of stuff. And Beth, thank you for the comment. Um, and I want to encourage all of our viewers, if you have ideas or topics that you want us to cover, please let us know this. This is the kind of stuff that we want to know. You can do it through an email to support or just by jotting something down here in the comment section. I will say for all of our newer viewers, just by going to the YouTube channel, just YouTube/Drafted Digital, there are a lot of videos, how-to videos to get you started and off on the publishing track. We've also launched a brand new newsletter. It's called the Indie Advantage, where we talk about things such as, well, in the next issue, we'll talk about book cover and book cover designs and how to choose the best pre-made book cover for your book. So we're doing all of these things. Sometimes these articles and these episodes are geared toward the more established authors, but we have a lot of content. I would even say a ton of content that's geared toward authors who are just kind of starting, who are dipping their toes into the self-publishing waters. So Beth, thanks so much for that comment. I want you to know that we heard you and we take that comment very, very seriously. Ocyrus, man, this has been fun. I'm
Yeah.
so happy we got to meet each other and have this conversation.
Yes, sir.
So the
I
door is
waited
always
a
open
long.
for you.
Yes, sir. I waited a long time. I mean, well, I waited in the time that we all started talking, but it felt like a long time for this moment. It's been awesome.
Well, we got to have you back. To all of our viewers out there, you guys, for you old timers out there, thanks for coming back and with us and trusting us with your time week in and week out. And for everyone out there who is newer, welcome to the channel. We're extremely happy that you're with us. We hope you enjoyed this community. We're so happy to see you participating and asking questions and engaging in the comments. So thank you for that. Just a few things really quickly to go over. Where are my little thingies? Here they are. If you could do us a favor and share episodes like this, subscribe to the channel, because when you subscribe, we can have awesome guests like Ocyrus come and visit us and share with us his expertise. If you bookmark d2dlive.com, you can see what subsequent topics and subsequent guests, who they're going to be. We are working on March as we speak. We need to fill up the calendar. And then finally, if you're new to the channel and you haven't published a book yet, or if you're just kind of, I don't know, maybe investigating self-publishing for the first time, you can sign up for a free account simply by visiting digital.com. Real quick reminder, the Smashwords Read an eBook Week sale is happening really, really quickly. It's coming up the first week of March. The sale runs March 2nd through March the 8th. If you are already a Drafted Digital author, today is the last day to enroll your books for that sale. So do it, because it's one of the biggest sales of the year. That's Read an eBook Week over at the Smashwords store. And with that, again, thank you, Ocyrus. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We're going to play a quick commercial spot talking about the Smashwords end of year sale. Cyrus, I'll meet you backstage. Feel free to grab a snack and some drinks. I'll be
Yes,
right
sir.
there with you in a minute.
Copy that. Thank you all. Take care.
All right, everybody. See you next week.
Indie authors, enroll your books now for the 16th annual Smashwords Read an eBook Week Super Sale, running March 2nd through 8th, 2025. Why enroll your books? Because Smashwords sales are gaining in popularity. Smashwords pays authors the industry's highest royalty rates, and over 1 million excited indie readers are eager to discover the next breakout best-selling author. Maybe that's you. So enroll your books at draftedigital.com and hurry because enrollment closes at the end of day, February 27th.